Well, hello everyone, I'm back with the last part of this tutorial. I already showed how to sew the shoulder seam, so I had to do that for the to put the neck on, but so I've sewed the other shoulder seam up. But I have sewn one half of the sweater. I have my pin cushion here with my pins and needles in, spare bit of wool for sewing up, my scissors, and this is one half of the sweater I did earlier. I only need to show you one side because this is just to show you. This is the seam from the sleeve and the seam for the cuff there, and then it's back stitched around the sleeve seam. All around here is back stitched. The sleeve seam up here, this part is back stitched, but the part of the rib is flat stitched. You don't put it together like that and sew it, you hold it like that and flat stitch it. So you can see the seam there, and the seam with the bottom part, that is flat stitched too. And that's the seam down there. The rest of it is back stitched up the side. So I'm now going to show you how to do this. So you take the sleeve, set the sleeve in. You've got the whole two pieces, to make sure that you stitch them. You have the right side facing when you're pinning it. Don't have the wrong side facing, or you'll be stitching it on the right side. So now you have the sleeve, and I have the two markers. That was where I started the shaping. I didn't cast any stitches off for the sleeve when I start the sleeve shaping. I prefer to do it this way. But you have the cast off stitches at the top, and you can either go by the pattern, you know, go the stitches of the pattern go two there, and two there, so that's the centre of it, or just fold it in half where you started the cast off and find your centre stitches, which is that part there. Connect that to and make sure you have your sleeve on the right side. And turning mine over because that's make sure I have mine on the right side, because it is you probably cannot tell, but I know when I cast the stitches on with this pattern is the same on both sides, but I have that is the wrong side of the rib, the start of the rib. That is the right side. I can tell my right side from my wrong side on my own knitting. But anyway, that's the wrong side, so that's the side I'm going to pin to here. So again, I'll just fold it in half and find the centre. You take those centre stitches and pin them to the seam here. Put my pins there. And just take a couple of pins from the centre on each side. Keep your pins pretty close together. Makes it easier to sewing up if you don't have big gaps between the pins. And then you take the sleeve from the stitch marker, take it to the edge like that, and pin it to the edge first there. And as you can see, there is more to the back. There is quite a loop going at there, so you have to stretch the sleeve. So I just pull both lots like that, work my fingers into the centre and put a pin there to pin those, because you do have to stretch the sleeve slightly to fit into the space. And that's the same with the, you see, you still have little loopy gaps like that, so just stretch them slightly and pin them in place. And keep your pins pretty close together because you're stretching it, and if you have big gaps between the pins, you might not sew it up correctly. You might end up with loopy bits left. So that's one side pinned down. Now I'll go to the other side now and do exactly the same with the other side. I have they're quite long pins, these ones. I don't know whether you can see them there. They're a bit longer than the small dressmaking ones, and they're better for pinning, knitting together. So that's the sleeve all pinned, and now I'm going to start sewing it. To find which needle. Is that one or that one? I have two small needles that I use for sewing. That one. Now I'm going to measure the length of yarn to go twice around the sleeve, and hopefully it'll go all the way around. So that's quite a long length I'm taking off. Doesn't always, but just a rough guess. And just making a knot in the end of the yarn so it doesn't, yeah. And I'm going to take that first marker out there and my first pin, and just start off joining the yarn to that side. And I do wrap the thing when you have a long bit like this. It does get a bit difficult trying to sew, but I hopefully tried to sew it all in one piece without having to add any more yarn afterwards. So that's the start, and now I'm going to back stitch this, which I'll blow up so you can see better. And back stitch is just keep going behind your stitch. For anyone that doesn't know this, you bring your needle out in front of the stitch you've just made, and then go behind it. Each time you go behind the stitch and then keep coming out in front of the stitch. And that's how I'm going to sew that sleeve in place, just back stitching it all the way around. And I try to keep my sewing as close to the edge as possible, so you don't have a great thick seam around it. And we're having a long length of yarn like this that you're sewing with. Sometimes it does knot up when you're trying to go through, so I hold my fingers like that on the yarn from the end of the needle there and just pull it, and it goes through without ravelling up. But if you try to just pull it through like this without, well, I'll show you. If you try to pull it through like that, it went through okay that time, but sometimes it starts to ravel up, and you just need to keep your fingers on the end of the yarn on the end of your needle like that, so when you pull it through, it goes through without ravelling. And taking the pins out as you go. And keep stretching your pieces together as you're sewing, because as you take the pins out, they'll loosen where you've stretched it. As you can see, I'm halfway around the sleeve, and I've kept the seam as small as possible, as close to the edge as possible, so as you can see it on the other side, it's quite firm, and I'm halfway through, and I still have a good bit of the wool left, but I'm still not sure whether there'll be enough to get all the way around the other side, but I'll see when I get there. So it's not quite enough yarn. I've had to join a little bit more yarn on, so I'm just going to join it on the back here, and I usually wrap the wool around about 3 times before I start sewing. Two, 3, that makes sure it's secure. I'm going to start doing my back stitch again. I'm coming up to there and I only have that small amount left to do. And I finish off the same way as I joined it. I go 3 times, wrapping the wool around the needle. Around the stitches. That secures it so there's no way it's going to come out. It's a little bit difficult with this little bit of wool that I have left. I've got a bit of a raggle there. That's it. And that's the seam all done around the sleeve. And this little bit, the cast off edge, I'm going to just stitch that in. And I just go over the seam 3 times. And then just cut that off. And that's the sleeve fixed in. So there. And all we'll have to do now is sew up the sleeve seam and the side seam. And as you can see, I have a long length of yarn. I always leave a long length of yarn like that when I cast on, which you can't do if you do a tailor an end tail cast on. I always do a cable cast on with 2 needles. And I'm going to pin find exactly where the cuff finishes, where the rib finishes, and put a pin in. And then I'm going to flat stitch the cuff part, the ribbed part. And again, I have a long length of yarn, so it gets a bit tangled at times. You just take your needle from one side of the rib to the other. Just pick up 1 stitch from one side, 1 stitch from the other. Blow that up so you can see better. And a bit of a tangle there. That's it. And you can see how that's the seam there that I'm doing. Take that pin out because I'm nearly at the bottom where the rib meets the pattern. And so that's the whole seam done for the sleeve. I'll turn it around, you can see. That's the sleeve seam down the cuff there. Turn it back, and now we just need to pin the sleeve. Make sure you keep it even when you pin it. You don't need to put the pins so close when you're doing this, because both sides of the sleeve should be the same. There's no stretching or anything like that in it. And now I'm going to do a back seam up the sleeve, exactly the same way I did on the setting the sleeve in. And that's going to be stitched like that all the way up as far as the wool takes me. It may take me up to the armhole, it may not. I may have to add a little bit, but usually I sew as far as the wool takes me, and then start from the rib on the side and do the same with that side. And if I have to join a little bit, it'll go up one side and down the other, or up the side and back down the sleeve to finish where that one left off. So it's as simple as that, just a back stitch all the way. Now that bit of yarn for the sleeve took me all the way up to the seams between the sleeve and the side, and I have done the flat stitched the side seam, the side rib, and now I'm going to sew up the side up to the armhole. And that is the last leg of this journey. It's almost finished. It's a long time in the making, this one. I'm not sure how long from start to finish, but I will model it myself when I finish so you can see what it looks like on. So that's the 42-inch completely finished. Now I will put it on and model it for you and let you see what it actually looks like on. Well everyone, this is how my sweater turned out. I hope you all like it.